Okay, we're live. Yay, us. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm just sharing this out because I'm that obnoxious host that shares everything out as we go.
Mm-hmm.
Because it works better that way. Where should I share this? And then I will welcome people. And then I will start welcoming everybody.
You got to share it everywhere.
Happening now with oh no.
What?
I can't share it in the way that I want because you don't show up on my hold on. I'll do it this way.
Yes, because you blocked and ghosted me.
I might have. Feh. Anyway, welcome everybody to another episode of The Talk. I am your host, Emiko, or as Mike likes to call me, Amiko. And then he tells me that I say my own name funny.
Emiko,
right.
Emiko.
And I'm joined today by my good friend Mike. So I'll ask you, is it Perez or Perez? We have this conversation every time we talk.
It just depends on what accent you want to use it in.
Well, how do you
say Perez?
Okay, so I'm joined by Mike Perez of Audio Arkitekts. And before we get started, I'm going to go over a few house rules for those of you that are regular viewers. Thank you for joining us yet again. You know what the house rules are, so this is a good time to refill on coffee, tea, or booze, whatever you're drinking in the noon hour. It's great wherever you are. The Talk is, I'd say, sort of an educational podcast about hi-fi music, high-end systems design, all things music lover, music enthusiast. So we view it as an educational space. We view it as a space where people can connect with each other, ask questions, and really have the opportunity to get to know the guests and what they're about and open up a dialogue. So do feel free to add comments and ask questions. There aren't really any stupid questions. And we don't harass, we don't troll, we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about religion. And if you are a troll and you do make a trolling comment, then we will read out your comment right then and there and tell everybody your name and we'll bounce you out because this is a one strike you're out zone. So, and if you are a troll and you choose to set your trolling aside for today, then we thank you in advance because that's really what this should be all about. So without further ado, Mike Perez from Audio Arkitekts.
What's going on? Oh, there's my boy.
I was gonna say, I see you've got fan mail already coming in.
Yeah, it's a very, very dear friend of mine.
You have 4 hearts. You got 4 hearts.
Damn right.
That's a lot of hearts, man. I want to talk to you about, this is the first time that you're doing this with us. Actually, this is the first time we launched this curation program, but you've been kind enough to curate a whole week for the show in terms of our social posts, and you've been picking out what you want to feature and writing captions about it. So take us through like the first 3. Are we on day 3 or day 4? I can't remember. But take us through why you chose the photos that you did, which people can find on our Facebook feed and on Instagram and on Twitter.
Well, let me pull them up real quick.
You don't remember? You don't remember?
I do a lot of Instagramming.
You do a lot of Instagramming. It's true. Well, the first
look at this. You're already stumping me. I'm only like a minute into the show. Okay. The first one's just like a shameless selfie. But I am in Giles's, my good friend Giles, who him and I do HiFi Fanatics together. We're always, collaborating on stuff and videos and shooting together. So obviously maintaining a safe, social distance. But I would do that regardless of whether there's a pandemic or not.
You'd stay 6 feet away even if there wasn't a global pandemic.
Absolutely. But yeah, the first picture is just of me with one of my branded hoodies. There's a 21-inch subwoofer behind, and then to the left, it's a Stark Sound on-wall speaker. Day 2, well, that was just basically a hello, I'm Mike kind of post. Second picture is my first time at CEDIA. Right. I'm wearing a no bullshit pin from T.H.E Audio, which I thought was awesome. And then once I kind of like read into T.H.E Audio's history and culture, It's awesome. The pin like kind of says it all. But that is I believe it's a 32-inch Skendo audio, immersive audio subwoofer. It's in the 30s. I'm not sure if it's 32 or 34. I don't know. It's huge though. Like literally, I'm 6 foot tall, and this thing came up almost to my chest. So it was pretty crazy. Third post is one of my favorite bands. It's the vinyl version of the Linkin Park Meteora album. Very special album for me. It definitely had a huge impact when I was, in my younger years between, 19 and 21. I definitely listened to this album, time and time again. It's one of those albums I also feel that you can listen to the whole thing and not have to like skip through a song and stuff like that. Because nowadays, when I listen to an album, there's like one or two songs that are, that stick out, that are good. And then the rest of the album's kind of like, meh, I don't really care. But yeah, Meteora is definitely, and as my buddy had commented there, Numb is one of my favorite songs ever by Linkin Park. So it just meant a lot to me. And I wanted to share that with you guys. The fact that, that's near and dear to my heart. And today's post was another shameless selfie.
Yeah. What was today's post? Let's take a look.
Pointing at the Aperion Audio Grand Veris 3 Towers that I just did a review on my YouTube. And love them. A lot of people haven't heard of Aperion Audio. I suggest you check them out because I think for mid-fi price, you're getting hi-fi quality flat out. So
let's talk about that. I was going to save that for later in our interview, but let's jump into that right now. So you are, for lack of a better term, you are a next generation hi-fi influencer, which I think is very cool. You know your stuff. You have a background, actually, I know you have a background as a photographer, but for large musical acts that toured nationally and internationally. So you're very well versed in terms of how live music is put together, which I think translates into your talent for identifying really good components and system flow in the hi-fi world. Not a lot of people have that, so good on you. But you talked the other day, we were chatting on the phone, and you were talking about how a lot of your followers are really into that mid-range pricing or slightly more budget-friendly pricing, but they still want the high-end, high-quality components. How do you go through and find and curate what those are? Do you have a system by which you do that, or do you just sort of close your eyes and go, that one, let's try it?
Well, it all depends on budget and what you want to accomplish, with your system, whether you want, to go the turntable route or the CD player route or the streaming route, or like how I'm trying to put it together, which I'm going to do all three. So, I said that, I do have a huge mid-fi crowd, but I think in general, the general population is a huge mid-fi crowd, because I mean, let's be honest, let's just forget that we are in the situation we are in right now. There's not that many people that have the budget to be like, hey, I'm going to drop 10K on an amp. I'm going to drop another 20K on a DAC, I'm going to drop 30K on cables. Normal people that have a normal job, that are, doing normal things, can't really afford, like, that's a down payment for a house, and there's some people out there that are spending that kind of money on cables, and nothing wrong with that. If that's your style and if that's what you want for your system, I think that's great. I don't have anything bad to say about that. And of course, I've noticed over time that once you upgrade, it gets progressively better. The sound gets better, and you get more creative control over the sound. Sometimes when you have like integrated things, like integrated amplifiers, integrated everything, you don't really have much creative control over certain components. So I suggest people that are interested in getting out there and doing their thing, I suggest you check out a huge wide range of offerings, from budget friendly stuff all the way to possibly some hi-fi stuff, just to get the right feel for it.
Well, I think it's really interesting that you're using the word hi-fi and mid-fi, because hi-fi literally means high fidelity. It doesn't mean high price. So then
Right.
are you saying that mid-fi equals mid fidelity? Like the
It's just
sound is
it's just a it's just a figure
okay?
it's just a figure of speech as far
Okay.
as
But I wanted to clarify that because you know that there's always going to be one or two people watching the show that are going, well, hi-fi doesn't mean that. Hi-fi means this. And it's like, yes, we know that. It's okay. But
yeah.
you make a good point that that with integrated stuff you may not have as much control as you want. How do you recommend to people to budget out and figure out what's most important to them? Like if somebody new was watching your channel, right, and you have a lot of new subs on YouTube,
Right.
and you get a lot of great question comments about, hey, can you help me do this, or can you counsel me on, a choice between this and this and things like that. And I see those, like if somebody says, hey man, I really want to build my system and it's my first time in, and I don't know what the most important thing I should look at is. What is, we have a special guest today, guys. It's my dog, Victoria. Sorry. Victoria. Stop, mama. Or come over here and show your face. One or the other. What is your recommendation for getting people to figure out what the key thing is that they should focus in on first? Like what's their first step going to be in your estimation?
Well, as you mentioned, I do get a lot of questions, and if I personally ask someone that knows what that particular answer is, and then I will answer it for them. I get a lot of Instagram messages too, asking me questions, and it was cool because the other day in the comments, someone asked me, it was a simple question about, do you prefer this or that? And I answered pretty quickly, because I do get notifications on my phone whenever I get a comment or a subscription or whatever.
Right.
And I answered quickly, and the guy was like, thank you so much for answering the question. No other YouTuber took the time to answer that question, so you got a subscription from me. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't do that for subscriptions or for whatever. I do it because that's the point of the channel. The point of the channel is to help people find their way in audio. I'm not doing it for anything other than that. I have other things I'm doing. So it is fun for me to do YouTube stuff, but like I want to help people. I want to help people that were like me in the beginning, that didn't know anything, that didn't, that had a foundation for what I think I had more of a foundation of what I like to listen to and what I think sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
But in my journey so far, I figured out what I thought sounded good back then sounds way better now with what I've discovered. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's kind of how I want to bridge the whole thing. I want people to be able to kind of follow my journey and see the kind of products I'm using and what I'm up to. So that way they can be like, okay, well, maybe I won't pick that product, but I'll pick something like it, something maybe more budget friendly or something even more expensive or something, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I do a lot of, and that's why I'm doing this whole quest for the best web series. The quest for the best is not for the quest for the best company. I can care less about the company, I want to showcase the best option. So if someone that's why I'm breaking it up into categories. So for the quest for the best speaker edition, I'm doing floor standing speakers, bookshelf speakers, powered speakers, portable speakers. So it's going to be a huge gamut of different types of speakers, and I will be doing commentary in the video explaining what the pros and cons of that particular speaker are.
Right.
So that gives you, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, so if somebody comes to you and says, I want to put together a system, but I don't know where to start, where would you recommend their first step be?
Power. You got to figure out a way to power your system. Yeah. Picking out a good amplifier, and then at the same time, kind of having an idea of whether they're going to do floor standers or bookshelves or powered speakers, like what's going to be, what's going to be driving, what's the power going to be driving. And then from there, once they know what speakers is going on, and once they know what amplifier they're going to get, then they can focus on like sources and, streamers and all that other stuff, because you got to figure out what you're going to be listening to, and then you can figure out what's going to be going through that. So definitely do that. And then, yeah, I think that's the main thing people need to focus on is power and speakers.
Power and speakers.
Power first.
Pardon?
I would do power first only because, you want something that's going to give you some good juice. You don't want you don't want to scrimp on power. I found that out the hard way. And for example, I started off with a Yamaha, integrated amplifier. And then from there I went to separates, which is a separate amplifier, separate everything, and the sound difference is huge.
So Jason says speakers first. Speakers determine how much power you need. And so the debate begins, my friend.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Because if you get a good enough amplifier, you're not going to be using all 300, 400, or 500 watts. That you'll blow your eardrums out. Like normally a speaker doesn't use that much wattage. So if you get a good amp, for example, I have the Stark 84 that puts out 320 watts per channel. Do you really think there's a speaker out there that I can actually afford that will use that much juice? No. And most speakers are very sensitive anyways nowadays. They're 88, 89, 90 and above. If you get Klipsch, geez, you can run Klipsch on a 10 watt amp. So it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter at all. So at that point, but he does have a point. If you want to go speakers first, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to find some good speakers and then pair them with whatever amp, I mean, it's going to be the same logic when you're picking out an amp. It's not going to. I don't think the speakers will have. I don't know. I don't think the speakers are going to sway your amp purchase. I think there's a lot of.
I don't know about that. My follow-up question to you was going to be in terms of pairings, because I've actually had a number of speakers come through my systems, and different amps pair better with different speakers, in my opinion. And so I think that actually picking out a pairing that's harmonious versus one that just is okay can make a difference.
It's either way, honestly. Like I don't think that's a huge debate for me, because I will use that that amp for all the speakers I review, so it's not like maybe, and then that's maybe why I think the way I do, because I go through speakers on a weekly basis,
right? And
they all sound fantastic coming out of a amplifier putting out 320 watts per channel,
right?
So that's kind of where I stand with that. But I guess if someone is putting together their system, you want to get what's appropriate. Now I'm talking only 2-channel. Now, I don't know if he's referring to maybe a multi-channel system, but yeah, if you're doing multi-channel, then you would wait on the amp. You could, because then you got to figure out exactly how many channels you're running and stuff like that, and then go from there.
Right. Well, let's see if Jason responds to that. It would be interesting to see what he has to say. If he's talking about, no, he says he's referring to 2-channel. Okay. Thank you for responding, Jason. That's cool that we're having this interactive dialogue. So actually, Mike, let me ask you the question. Why haven't you changed out amps? Is it just because you haven't felt like you had a reason to?
I have changed out amps.
You have?
Yeah. I've been through like 3 or 4 amps since I've been doing this, and right now I'm just kind of comfortable with the Stark because it's
got it. Okay.
Plenty of power. It's more than enough power for the most, demanding speakers. So
Gotcha. So you seem like a very easygoing. Well, I know this. You're very easygoing. You're very inclusive in terms of how you put things together for your videos. In other words, you're not super judgmental, right? You're like, oh, okay, if you can't afford this, but you find something that you like in your price range, that's great for you. Good for you that you're on your journey. And that's awesome. There's one thing that I want to talk about in a little bit more detail that we touched upon in the first episode of this series, which was the listening podcast that we did with our friend Paul James.
Yeah.
Where the great cable debate rages on about, right? Do they make a difference? How much of a difference do they make? Is silver? Is copper? Like, right? There's all of these different little nuances that people get very up in arms about. And you had written an article about it, expressing one viewpoint, and our dear friend Paul had rebutted it.
My pig idiot article, yes.
with the terminology in my audiophile group on Facebook that I admin, and I was like, no, you can't use words like that. That's trolling. You can't do that. But
Well,
then you invited him.
getting to know Paul now
Yeah.
on a personal level, I can't even like fathom him using that kind of
He does.
that kind of language. So for that, I feel kind of good that I pissed him off that much. I mean, I was kind of
Well, what have you experienced? Because I know that you and Paul actually ended up getting together to talk and to express and exchange views outside of the Next Generation Audiophiles group. So what did you find that he was able to offer you in terms of information, and what types of new points of view were you able to offer him as well?
Well, Paul has done a lot of research and, obviously testing with extremely, instruments that are meant for this kind of stuff. He knows electrical engineers. He knows all these people that have access to instruments that can test, various kinds of things. So he wrote me an article, to kind of go along to kind of replace the article I wrote. And so we're kind of collaborating on that article to kind of bring, because there's got to be a bridge. Like I think this is something that you have been trying to accomplish, with a lot of these conversations that we've been having, is building a bridge.
Right.
And that's something I'd like to do, for people that want to. You doing all right over there?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm hearing the same crunching noise that Jason.
Yeah, I am as well.
And I don't know what that is, because there's nothing. That's why I'm just trying to adjust and see if it's something over here, but it seems to be happening when you're speaking, Mike. Can you speak? Sorry, guys. It's a very organic, real-time podcast.
Hello?
Okay,
hello.
see. Let's see. All right, let's keep talking and see what happens.
All right. It is kind of... Okay, I think it went away. No, it didn't. Uh-oh.
It goes away when you stop talking.
I know. You got to get your stuff together here.
I'm not crunching.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's just keep going, I guess.
Yeah.
Giles just said, Mike is loud and Amika is very faint.
That's normally how this is, Giles, with Mike. You know that. That's old hat, brother. Anyway, so you and Paul got together and you were co-writing this article after all of that, right?
Well, yeah, he wrote the big chunk of it. I'm going to be adding a few things to it, and then it's going to be coming out on I guess now is a good time to
announce it,
to talk about the announcement, because you already know, because I sent you the link. I'm going to be putting out a quarterly magazine that's going to be a very small run for the first little bit, but I am going to be offering for whoever wants to order, the first 25 pre-order will be free to your audience. So
nice.
That crunching sound's driving me nuts.
It happens when you're talking. You want to do shadow puppetry instead?
Yeah, let's do that. Maybe I could talk back here. It won't happen as much. No, it's still happening. That's weird. Never had that happen. But yeah, I'll definitely be putting that out spring of 2021. So
nice.
It's going to be a little while, but I think it's going to be fantastic, and that article will be included in there. So, but yeah, I had a blast with Paul talking to him about everything and kind of figuring things out.
Well, he's a great tinkerer, and being that he's a published author of books on vintage hi-fi and tubes and Victrolas and turntables and all these other things, and I think being that he's a designer and a scientist all in one, he certainly has a lot to offer in terms of a knowledge base, doesn't he? Like he's very articulate about it.
He is,
I think. So let's talk about what videos you have coming up, and let's talk about why you feel it's important to be a hi-fi. I use the word influencer now because you are, but more than that, I think you're striving to be an educator, right?
Mhm.
I mean, so talk us through why you decided that this was the route for you, as opposed to like working in a audio dealer showroom or becoming a dealer or a distributor.
I worked for Circuit City when I was 18, so I know what the retail side of it entails. Yeah, I'm having fun with it. You know, I enjoy it. So I enjoy the videos. I enjoy the production. I have a wonderful group of people that I work with on these projects and everything. The companies I work with are amazing. So yeah, I'm having a good time with it, and I'm able to help people out. So it's a win-win, you know. This coming Friday, I do have a video dropping that is called The Punisher. It's a DIY subwoofer build that I did. Thank you to Stereo Integrity for providing the 15-inch HST 15 just beast of a subwoofer.
Nice.
And thank you T.H.E Audio for doing a custom sealed box for me, a one-off deal that we had. And together they paired very well.
Nice. So why do you feel we had Giles on last week and we talked about the DIY stuff as well. What is it about DIY that is fascinating to you that makes you want to build?
You know, it allows you to kind of control the results. So you're the engineer, you're the designer, you're the architect, you're the everything, you know. So you're putting together, you know, pieces of this puzzle that are going to have sometimes a better result than spending double or triple the amount of money on something that's already been built. Because you got to think, if you're going to be buying a high you know powered subwoofer, an expensive subwoofer, you're looking at $3, $4, $5, sometimes in the $6,000 range, you know, for a really expensive subwoofer. When if you go DIY, you could spend maybe a quarter of that amount and have similar results. So I think that's the advantage of DIY. I think DIY is up and coming. I think people are getting more into it now. And I feel, you know, strongly that it's going to be something that gets more, the more that we have to stay inside, this is going to be something that becomes more and more popular because people are going to want something to do, something to tinker around with, you know?
Right. Would you ever consider making your own cables?
Yes, I have before. That's how Audio Arkitekts actually started.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so, tell us that story.
Nobody knows that story except for Giles. So
now everybody will know it.
Yeah. Well, I originally wanted to make custom cables that were affordable and still provided a good clean connection, you know, using the best possible materials, but still maintaining that price where, you know, it won't retail for more than you know what I deem as affordable. So I wanted to keep it affordable, but make it look good, sound good, and feel good to own. You know.
Nice.
So what I did was I built my first pair.
Right.
And
you fell down. You're back.
So I built my first pair, and I figured out real quick that this part of my hand gets really, really painful whenever whenever I had to do the crimping and then all that stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's like early arthritic, you know, stuff because that runs in my family. But I just figured out real quick that I wouldn't be able to manufacture them myself. So, and after talking to Giles and after talking to a few people in the forums and stuff like that, there's really no need for another cable company out there. You know, it's already super saturated between not only, you know, low priced offerings, but also high end stuff. There's Audio Quest that has a huge grasp on the market. There's people like Sewell that offer really, really competitive pricing. Really, I really have no interest in. I might do one-off projects here and there. I might do like a short run of some custom cables for people if they choose to have that. You know, if they want to.
Right.
But as far as like going crazy about it, not really in the cards for me. However, I do have plans to enter the speaker design arena within the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm working on a couple prototypes right now, a couple bookshelf prototypes that I want to explore more with and learn more about. So once I kind of tinker around with that and come up with, a solid option, I think that might be something I could take to market. But that won't be, like I said, for several years, because I want to be able to have the financial backing to be able to go full bore with it. I don't want to be like, oh, pre-order my speakers because I need the money to build the things. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not, people do that. And they do. And that's business. But I think down the road, I definitely want to perfect whatever I do and make sure it's going to be something that people are going to enjoy and not be overcritical about, and just kind of how Paul and I have been kind of talking about it. Just sit back and listen to the music, enjoy it. The best speaker is the one that you can just forget about. You don't have to worry about it being there. You're just consuming that music and that whatever you're consuming. So,
gotcha. So what's in your system right now? Like, what is your system? What is the mic?
What isn't in my system right now?
What is the mic system right now?
I don't know. It's a trade secret.
It's a trade secret?
All right. It's actually right behind me. People can see most of it. For sources, I have a Blue Sound Node 2i that I use for my music streaming, and I use Tidal, if anybody's wondering. And that's after using Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music. I settled on Tidal, but I still do use YouTube Music because it has probably the most extensive catalog. So if you're looking for a huge catalog, YouTube Music is where it's at. If you're looking for better sound quality, you will have a noticeable difference with MQA and the high, high level streaming and stuff like that on the Blue Sound Node 2i. Next to that is a little cheapo preamp that I'm using right now. It's a little tube preamp that actually works really good because I'm working on getting a ship preamp. So I'm going to be getting a ship preamp pretty soon, and that's going to be probably a staple in my system for a while. Below that is the Stark 84 amplifier, 4-channel amplifier that powers everything. And for speakers right now, I'm using the Veris Aperion Audio Veris 3 Veris Grand Towers, So, and obviously the Punisher is down there, right underneath Baby Yoda. That's where the Punisher lives. So Baby Yoda protects the Punisher. But yeah, you'll be able to see the Punisher build on Friday. It'll be amazing. It was a true labor of love.
How long did it take you to build that? Because I followed you a little bit on your Instagram.
Well, it could have been quicker, but I had a few hiccups along the way. I actually built it over at Giles' house, so had some issues with parts that weren't matching up. I needed to get a different, thing for this, different thing for that. So when it was all said and done, it took a few days of actual time, but overall, it was a cool build. I screwed up on the paint, but shit happens. Sure.
That's why it's DIY.
It ended up working out because since I spray painted the Punisher emblem on the sides, it has kind of a urban rough feel to it. So it ended up being all right. It's not like it's unsightly, but you guys will be able to see it. You'll see it flex. You'll see it play. In the video coming up on Friday, and yeah, I'm excited. Nice. I guess tomorrow's Friday, right? Yeah, so tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Yeah, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. It's gonna be good.
Nice.
I encourage everybody, and for the people that are watching that haven't subscribed yet, my good friend Giles has put me under a little pressure to hit 1,000 subscribers by December 1st. So if you guys are into audio and you guys want to kind of follow along on my journey of what I test and what I do, and I do I do interviews as well with companies, and because I kind of want you guys to kind of get to know the company. If you're going to be buying something from a company, it's kind of fun to know the history and culture of the company, and to kind of talk with people that are running the show, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So go subscribe to Mike's YouTube channel is what he's trying to say. Audio Arkitekts on YouTube,
Please.
right?
Yes.
But the thing is, you spell architects in a
Funky.
very unique way. It's very unique. It's very unique. But we did tag you in this, so you guys will be able to find the spelling, and if you click that, it'll take you to his Facebook page, and then from there you can go to his YouTube page. Oh, you mentioned vinyl. You're going to be expanding your system pretty soon.
Yes. I'm torn between 3 companies. I'm thinking either U-Turn, if they return an email, Fluent, or Project. Project being probably more what I'm leaning towards, only because there's a lot to scale with that company. You know, there's a lot, you know, I think with U-Turn and Fluent, I think that you reach a certain point where it's like, okay, you can't get any better than this. And with Project, they have stuff that's like super wild and super crazy. So that might be a good ecosystem to get into as a reviewer, you know, to be able to showcase different types of products.
So you're looking to expand this as a reviewer as opposed to as
both.
An audiophile, as a music.
Both.
Both.
I want to do both. I want to accomplish both with whoever I choose. Yeah.
Got it. Well, who says that you can't have more than one?
The space.
Okay. I was going to say, because I'm refurbing a vintage turntable now, and then I have a third turntable at my other house. So I've got 3, and I was thinking about lining them up one in a row and doing
That's
ABC.
pretty cool.
But we'll see. I would have to get a longer rack or get more racks to line up, which means that I would have to move a 1,000-pound Hammond organ. I'm not going to do by myself. But anyway, so you're thinking about Project, which I, in my mind, read it as project because of the dash.
Yeah.
I always read it that way. I mean, where would you start with each of those?
I think it's called the Carbon or something like that. It's their entry level offering, and then work my way up and see kind of where it goes. I guess the turntable isn't my first priority right now, but it definitely is something I'd like to incorporate in my system.
Well, as a vinyl junkie, I make a sad face on that because
No, I have a good collection.
Vinyl would be everybody's first priority, but that's just my opinion.
It's once again, I kind of go back to what Paul and I talk about, and it is a shame that doing what I do kind of numbs the whole process of listening to music. And that's why I did that post that one night when I was actually listening to music.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I took a couple hours and I just put my headphones on and just consumed it, you know, and just lost myself in the music for a little bit, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Right. Is the music, you know?
Well, let's talk about that. How do you listen to music?
It depends on the mood I'm in.
Okay.
So
let's say you're not making a video. Let's say it's just Mike kicking back on a Friday night, Thursday night, whatever, just hanging. Like, how do you? What's your?
I'd like to say the music narrates my thoughts.
Okay.
Depending on what I'm listening to, could bring back memories. Could make me think about the future. Could bring back sad experiences, happy experiences. Makes you start thinking, you know, kind of gets you into a kind of like, for me, music kind of brings me inside myself, you know, and allows me to just remember things and think about things, and by the time after you've listened to like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, going on, you know, however long you're listening to, it's almost like a little therapy session, you know, because you get to think about the stuff you could have done, should have done, glad you did, you know. So yeah, it's people think sometimes music is just listening to music, but for me, it's more of an internal experience.
Right.
But now, go ahead.
Do you feel like as a reviewer, as an influencer, and as somebody who's active in the community, that there's different types of listening that you can do, i.e. like there's an objective listening, there's a practice listening, and then there's just listening for pleasure? Or do you try to incorporate everything into one experience for yourself?
Well, I have to separate, when I'm doing reviews, I have to separate that type of listening, because that's more of an analytical listening. I'm listening more for the fidelity of the speaker. I'm listening more for any kind of, pros, cons, anomalies. I need to figure out whether that speaker is good or not. So for me, like when I'm doing reviews, I don't follow that process where I lose myself in the music, because I'm listening for functionality rather than listening to music. So, and that's what kind of sucks about it. But at the same time, it's a good process, because you really get to see what the engineers that created that speaker intended, and you get to it's a different kind of like I said, it's a different process, because it's more for the technology and for the product, which eventually becomes that conduit to that listening that I was talking about earlier.
Right. Gotcha. So if somebody came to you and said, hey, I want to buy a pair of speakers that I saw in your video, but I'm having a different experience. I got them. I'm having a totally different experience than you had. Walk me through that. What would you say? Like, let's say you felt like a pair of speakers that you had reviewed were extremely balanced, and the highs were high and the lows were lows, and everything came out just the way that it made you feel really good to listen to them. And then somebody else goes, no, man, those are way too bassy and they're kind of dark and they're not really my thing.
Well,
How do you approach that?
After I do my measurements and I explain what characteristics the particular speaker has, I will let them know if it's too bassy, or if there's too edgy, or if the mids are a little thin. I will let them know, so that way they're not kind of getting into something that they're not prepared for. Because if I listen to a speaker and it's super bassy, and I'm like, oh no, you guys will love this. This is great. It sounds good. Right. That does them a disservice, So I think that if someone comes back to me and says, hey, I disagree, they're not bassy, I would then kind of inquire, okay, so what kind of tone control are you using? Are you where do you have your stuff set at? Where do you got EQ set at? So that way we can kind of work together to mitigate that, rather than me just react and be like, well, you're stupid and I think they sound great. That's the thing. You laugh, but people, like, there's YouTubers out there that will not have good relations with their audience, that they're just they're not cool.
I know some people call each other names, and they, well, I mean, that's something I do want to talk to you about. We got into it a little bit with Giles, not very much, but I think because of your experience with our friend Paul, the thing that really made me feel hopeful about the future of HiFi is that there was that bridge to be built there, and now you guys are working together on something really cool. Actually, on a couple things, we'll talk about the documentary in a minute. But how do you lower the temperature of a conflict if somebody, right? I mean, like, there are all these post boards and stuff on Facebook and all these different communities that people are in, and sometimes people just say the darndest stuff, for lack of that's my family friendly way of putting it. They say the darndest stuff, or they'll post something that just makes you go, wow, how did they not fall into a hole more often? But if they directed at you because of something that you've put out, how do you handle that?
Well, you first got to identify who you're dealing with, like who you're talking to. And then at that point, you have to decide whether it's worth it. Yes. to engage in a debate with that person. If it's something very elementary that is that they're just, if they're missing something that I can educate them on, I'd be more than happy to. More often than not, I do avoid conflict because I think it looks bad. I don't think having a huge fight in the comment section of anywhere that I am a part of is something that I like to do very often. And I do regret having that conflict with Paul, but I think it all happened for a reason, and now
I think it's great because you guys got
it
together
worked.
after that and worked it out and worked together.
Right. So yeah, it was all meant for a bigger purpose. So,
Absolutely.
you know, you got to pick and choose your battles. That's it.
Yeah, I think, and as a younger audio enthusiast, as a music enthusiast, I know there are occasionally comments that get thrown generationally, and for me as a female, there are lots of comments and posts that get put up that make me kind of scratch my head and go, wow, very interesting stuff, people. I want to talk about the documentary-ish, this thing that, because we might as well start talking about it because it's happening. So our friend Paul, so here's the deal, everybody who's watching, and thank you for taking time out to join us for the talk today. But if you saw the first episode, so not last week, which was Giles McCoy, which was awesome. Y'all should check that one out too. The one before that, Mike was on with our friend Paul James, and we were talking about listening and bridging the generational gap in the audio community. Because let's all face it, let's call a thing. There is one. And I think one of the reasons that Mike and I, and certainly Giles and I, and certainly Giles and Mike, but the reason that we get along is because we're of a sort of a newer, slightly newer generation. But there's such a journey to be had. And so it's important that we document a lot of this. And for some of you may be aware that the show produced a documentary short that premiered 2 years ago. It would have been the show 19 that it premiered at. And it's gone on to win some awards and be nominated for some film festival stuff. And the feature is coming, but then Paul James had written to me and said, hey, I want you to come on board and do this documentary about listening. And then the next thing I knew was that a couple nights ago, I got a phone call from you, Mike, and you're like, hey man, I'm going to be working with Paul on this listening documentary project. And I'm like, yay, this is going to be so exciting. So how do you feel about the idea of memorializing these journeys in something that hopefully people will watch for, many, many times to come? And what do you feel that you can contribute to that? Like, what do you want to leave people with in that?
I think it's great because I think, immortalizing that generation is going to be very important because
Paul's generation.
Right. They have a very different approach and view to audio that I think should be embraced by all the up and coming generations, because they come from an analog generation. They don't come from a digital generation.
Right.
So now they're trying to kind of like work their way around the digital world and doing the best they can. But I mean, it's hard for someone who's been doing something a certain way for so long to be like, oh God, now I got to change everything and do everything different. So I can empathize with that generation as to why there is a divide, because it's a technological divide, more so than a social divide. However, there's certain people that turn it into a social divide, and I think that's just irresponsible. I don't think it should be black and white. It shouldn't be one or the other, right or left. You know what I'm saying? I think there should be a lot more respect and understanding on both sides, because I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah.
And I think if Paul and I and whoever else is involved in this project can somehow accomplish that by bridging all the gaps and creating this kind of a peace treaty amongst the audiophiles, and I think that word audiophile has been demonized by a lot of people because they're giving it a stigma, they're giving it like this stereotype, and I don't like that because I'd like to be an audiophile. I'm sure you're an audiophile. We're passionate about audio. I think that cinephiles, nobody messes with them,
Right.
So,
Right.
But yeah, I think this is going to be a fun project. I'm excited to hear more about it from Paul, and I'm excited to work with you on this project. I'm sure you're going to have a huge involvement. So, I think it's going to be a fun thing.
I think it's going to be really cool because I think, one of the one of the things that I love about your videos and about your channel is your energy and your excitement. And I think that and I don't know that this is necessarily generational, although my involvement in the high-end audio community specifically would beg to confirm that. But you and Giles tend to come at audio and components and systems with this sense of excitement and energy and newfound glee that you don't really see a lot of. And what I mean by that is, like, every time you guys do an unboxing or you do an AB or you do something that's like a DIY, it's like watching two guys tear open Christmas presents. Like, it's really great, as opposed to some other really wonderful influencers that are very well respected that also know their shite, but sort of sit down at a table. Okay, today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be unboxing this. Then we're going to hook this up here, and it's going to go like this, and we have a response rate of this, and like, and it's so much more subdued, and you make it. I feel like you make it very exciting and multi-dimensional in that sense. Like, there's a lot of, like, we were talking about this the other day, where there's a lot of like sort of zoom in close-ups of things that you're doing that I think it makes the viewer feel like they're going along with you for the journey, as opposed to being in a science class, if that makes sense. And so even the care that you put into this is me trying to get you more subs, bro, by the way, but seriously, even the care that you put into the video production that you're doing, I think is analogous to like how you feel about the music. Yeah, Jason just said it's real, and I would agree. I think that's a very simple and great way of putting it. It's like it sort of oozes out onto the camera and reaches through to the other side, and it's wonderful. And I think we need more of that. So I want you to tell our viewers what videos they can look for. Like, what are you going to be, if you're allowed to say, what are you going to be reviewing next? What's coming up that isn't already in preview?
Well, the reason it's real is because I handpick the companies I work with. I only work with people I want to work with, and that's something that is ballsy for a new YouTuber, but it's the way I want to do it. You know, I want to show people my vision. I don't want to be bought and paid for by the highest bidder. You know, that's not my thing. So things to look forward to is the rest of the Quest for the Best Speaker Edition. Things to look back on and check out is Quest for the Best Subwoofer Edition, where I reviewed a ported, sealed, downfiring, DIY. I did the whole gamut of subwoofers. And I'm doing the same thing for speakers. And then in a future web series, I'm going to do the same thing for amplifiers. So I'm going to be working with amazing companies like Stark and Accurus and stuff like that. So that way I can show people different options they have, different price ranges, stuff like that.
Well, that's something I was going to ask you. Do you feel like you would ever do a very focused series specifically on price point? So Quest for the Best under 500, between 501 and 999, like so on and so forth. Do you think you would ever break them out that way?
I include enough offerings in my videos to kind of give people different options. I never go super high end, which I will eventually, just to kind of show people what that's all about and my opinion on it.
Yeah.
However, for now, I think staying in a mid-range price point is probably the best bet, because you definitely get what you pay for sometimes with audio. And I say sometimes because there is a lot of smoke and mirrors out there with certain companies that produce products that are touted to be super high end, and you open it up and it's not what it was intended to be. So that's just with everything, though. Every industry has that kind of snake oil in it. So I think I'm going to kind of stick around with what I'm doing. I think I'm in a good kind of ecosystem of price range right now. Like I said, I don't go too crazy, and I don't I think the cheapest thing I have is that little preamp. It was like $45 on Amazon, and it ended up working. It worked really
Are
well.
you going to tell us what the preamp is?
Yeah, there's a video about it.
No, are you going to tell us now what it is, though?
Yeah, it's the FX Audio 03. It's a
okay, because you didn't say that earlier. You just said I have this cheap preamp.
Yeah, it's FX Audio.
It
works
just over it. I was just curious.
I'll tell you, it works just fine. Will I upgrade it? Yes, obviously. My heart is set on the shit audio Saga Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Only because it has more inputs. This one only has one input, one output. So I can't plug in more than one thing at one time. So I believe the Saga Plus has I think 4, something like that. So look out. The next video I'm also going to do is on the Blue Sound Node 2i. I want to get the word out on that streamer because I know it's a little expensive at $400, but it definitely changed the game for music streaming in my system. So I definitely want to share that with the world as well.
Fair enough. Sounds good. The Mad
Piranha. I love the Mad Piranha.
I like that Mike isn't fake.
He is. He has been a great supporter of our live streams on Tuesday nights that Giles and I do with HiFi Fanatics. And that's another thing people can check out is HiFi Fanatics. Giles and I have spent and are spending a lot of time talking to companies about their products, about their stuff, and allowing them to have a voice through our channel. So, and that's a communal channel we share together as the HiFi Fanatics.
Right. How long? No, you Audio Arkitekts. At least, so we interviewed you. Was it a year? No, was it a year ago?
No.
You and Giles together.
It was a while ago.
Because you guys hadn't yet had HiFi Fanatics. The podcast was called something completely different.
It was called Power of Sound.
Right. It was called the POS Podcast. That's right. And so and you had just put
it wasn't that great of a marketing decision to call it POS Podcast.
No, HiFi Fanatics is much better. But it's such a pleasure to have seen you guys grown to this place where you have so much support and like seasons lined up and stuff. It's really awesome. So I want to encourage everybody. The Mad Piranha says I was here for Giles as well. That's awesome. Thank you for being here for Mike and Giles. That's very cool.
He's an awesome guy.
So I just want to say, like, I think it's great that you guys have grown your channel together and respectively, separately, as much as you have in such a short time, because it's so wonderful to see. What's wonderful to see is for every time, right, as the director of marketing for the show, every time I get a phone call or every time in a physical show, which we are looking forward to having one soon, that we get feedback like, oh, those young kids, we need more young people, audio's dying. And I'm like, yeah, have you seen what's going on over here with HiFi Fanatics and Audio Arkitekts and Home Theater Fanatics? And so it's wonderful to see that this really is an example of the answer of HiFi is alive and well right here, ladies and gentlemen. Like, there's just no question about it. And it might be changing. It might not be the thing that you were used to before, but progress marches on, right? Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line. And I think Mike's your series for the Quest for the Best is a really good example of how much variety is out there and how really this is such a personal journey, and that nobody really has the right to tell you that your journey sucks, right? Which I think a lot of audiophiles do on post boards. But this is really something we should be encouraging each other on, and finding out why people are into something that you might not be into. Just find out why, right? Just ask the question. It's no more than that. We don't have to make a judgment before you ask the question, get the information.
I enjoy other people's opinions. I enjoy hearing their point of view. Even if I don't share it, it's still interesting to know why. And that's one thing. If someone's going to have a very critical opinion of something, I hope they can bring some insight as to why, rather than just be like, hey, that's stupid or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I think that's something that is definitely should be, eradicated from everywhere. But it's something as a YouTuber you got to deal with. You got to deal with flack. You got to deal with a lot of hate, a lot of flack, and for no reason. It's funny because I always tell Giles, I'm like, Giles, I got 3 dislikes on this video. And I'm like, I don't understand. It was such a neutral video. It was like just telling people about this product. And
Right.
there's people out there that actually spend the time to hit that dislike button.
Oh, are you kidding? I get not only dislikes, I get active hate mail from people with like 0 subscribers telling me that I don't know shit and I'm worthless. And somebody told me I had a head like a turtle, which I thought was a weird. I didn't take it as a compliment, but I didn't take it as an insult because I didn't know what that meant. I was like, am I not down with some sort of lingo that
Why
is
do
really
people?
bad? He was so angry when he typed it in, though. I could feel it. I was like, wow. So I wrote back and said, thank you for taking like 7 minutes out of your life you can never have back, because you watched the video, you formed an opinion, then you decided you hated it so much you had to write to me and tell me what a horrible person I was with a turtle head. Winning.
Yeah, I don't know why people have that kind of time.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of time. If I don't like something, I'll just click off and go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I don't even waste enough time to do a dislike because I don't care. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. If you have something I don't like, I'm sorry. I don't agree with your opinion or your video or whatever. And I'm not going to disturb your existence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to affect your ratings and your stuff like that. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I the mad prawn is like, why would you say that? A head like a turtle? WTF? Yeah. Apparently I have a head like a turtle. I didn't know that, but this one guy felt that way who has 0 subscribers and no profile picture on his YouTube profile. So clearly we know that he's legitimate and a contributing member of society, but that's okay. Anyway, but I love the fact that these are all very, the videos are enlightening. The products that you and the components that you review are such a broad spectrum and a broad range. I think that there's something for everyone in there, which is really wonderful. You don't judge. None of your videos are judgy where you talk about like, oh, well, if you can only afford this, right? There's no passive aggressive language in there, which is also very cool. Because let's face it, I think that there is a subculture in the audio community where people are sort of on that quest for the best, but it's not a quest for the best where people are raising each other up. It's one where like they're climbing over each other sometimes. So it's nice to have people that are here to raise each other up and are here to educate and to inspire and to, to sort of push people along their journey and say, no, come on, you can do it. Find your own thing. We support you, right?
For sure.
So new videos dropping tomorrow.
And
and last thing that I wanted to bring up, Mike has merch, y'all. Mike has gear. What's his sister got to do to get a baseball cap up in this joint? Like,
I'll tell you what, I'll send you a cap. I actually have a couple. I did the baseball caps are super expensive, so I had to do a small run. But for the t-shirts and the hoodies, you just go to my website, www.audioarkitekts.com,
right,
and go to I think it's called the shopping button. You just hit the shopping button and it'll pop up, hoodies, t-shirts, flowies for girls that want a flowy.
I don't even know. I'm a girl. What's a flowy? Is it
super popular? Super popular, like little tank top looking thing. I don't know. Girls dig it, but I've had people buy it. So
no, I believe you. I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I did this because it's a way to support the channel since I'm not monetized yet on YouTube. It's a way to support the channel, because a lot of this stuff does cost a lot of money. I employ a full-time digital editor, video editor. I've spent a lot of my own personal money on this channel. I'd say well into the thousands at this point. So for me, I'm not doing a Patreon. I'm not doing any of that weird stuff. I'm not going to show you, nudes or anything like that. What I want. All I wanted to do was create some cool merch, So I have a shirt that says "So Loud It Hurts" with HZ. I think that's rad.
Oh, that's cool.
I have another shirt that says "If it's too loud, you're too old," which I think is funny as well. Even though it contradicts itself, because the older you get, the less you hear.
It's been a hot minute since I've trolled your merch page, but I do remember the baseball cap, and I was like, I'm getting one of those. It's going to happen.
Well, I'm gonna send you one. I'll send you a couple color differences and tell me which one you want. But and I definitely want you to have an Audio Architects hoodie as well. So that way you can wear it proudly on all of your events you do.
Cross branding.
Oh my God, OnlyFans.
I would totally rock one. I think because here's the thing, right? It's like again, the show is here to enhance and bring together people in the audio community. So I should be doing it. We should be doing it. All of us should be doing that, right? Anybody that runs a show should be reaching out to influencers and trying to build those bridges without a doubt. Yeah. That's the way that audio is not just going to survive, but it's going to thrive, man. If we don't think 2 steps ahead, it's going to be over.
Just to answer Jason's comment.
Oh yeah, I thought so too, actually.
You know, I don't have enough time in the day. I think video editing is a skill set that I would love to learn someday. However, I found someone who is extremely talented, accepts and embraces my vision, and creates this experience for my viewers that I can't create. I wanted a good production. I wanted to come right out of the gate, and I wanted to be to have a good production value. So I think I've accomplished that with my friend that's doing it with me, and I think it's going to be a good thing. You know, I hope he sticks around for a long time. So yeah, eventually I might have to learn how to do it myself, but for now, I think it's really good. Awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole process. I mean, I do my own filming, obviously. I don't have someone holding the camera for me. Well, unless Giles wants to hold it every once in a while. And
so
when I'm filming my OnlyFans.
Right. I said, just to be clear, Giles and Mike are neighbors. Like, you don't just appear on camera together, but you're actually.
Yeah, we live about 10-15 minutes from each other. So
yeah. And that's the other thing. That's really cool about this, you guys, is like audio has become such a solitary thing, especially now with COVID. Like, it has to be, and we get that. But that's why videos like Mike and Giles do, podcasts like this one, like The Talk and HiFi Fanatics, and all of this stuff brings people together. And to see 2 guys that live near each other that can actually, get together safely and help each other out with videos, like that's bringing audio enthusiasm into the real world. Like it's connecting people, and that's really cool. I dig it. So we have run out of time. So I want to thank you, Mike Perez from Audio Arkitekts, for joining us today.
There
it is. And stay tuned, because we've got more talk episodes coming up that are live, and Mike has another few days of curation for us. So make sure to, if you haven't already, gone to hit that like button on the show's Facebook page, subscribe to us on Instagram, on YouTube. Obviously, we are the home entertainment show all over the world. Go hit up Audio Arkitekts for all the latest and greatest, the quest for the best, and for really hip, cool merch as well. It really does. It really looks amazing. It really does.
You might. You're going to love it. It's a very comfy hoodie.
What is it?
I wear it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. I see a lot of it in your Instagram posts, actually. Anyway.
It really is. It actually is really soft on the inside. You would think, like, because I didn't know what to expect when I started ordering, because I order all my products before I feature them on the website to make sure they're good, because I don't want to sell, crap. So I ordered all my stuff, and I'm like, okay, now I have like a whole wardrobe of Audio Arkitekts crap. So I put on the hoodie. I'm like, man, like it's soft on the inside. I'm like, this is really nice, Cool. So yeah, and I've watched it a few times, and it's held up. So yeah, I'm stoked.
Good. So everybody, go buy your Audio Arkitekts stuff immediately, and subscribe to Mike on YouTube. Help him.
Yeah, because I gotta hit that 1,000 before December 1st. Otherwise, Giles is gonna cry. So you don't want Giles to cry.
Subscribers, you can do it. We're gonna help you. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today on The Talk. We're sorry that there was some crackling going on. I think it still happened. It only happens when Mike talks, but that always happens when Mike talks. I'm just kidding. That was me trolling you. I'm just kidding.
You're breaking your own rules.
then it's a good thing that I'm about to bounce myself out of here, isn't it?
Right.
And we're wrapping it up. Mike, thank you so much for being our guest today. We love your curation thus far, and we can't wait to see what you have for us for the next few days. And stay tuned next Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time for another episode of The Talk. Until then, thank you for watching, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Wait, it won't end. That awkward moment. That awkward moment, you guys. I'm still here. Holy crap.